Welcome one, welcome all to the debut edition of Believe, a Chicago Bulls podcast. Today, I want to discuss the Chicago Bulls head coach opening. One thing I've noticed over the last maybe week, 2 weeks or so, is that fans are starting to get restless. And quite honestly, I get it. Billy Donovan is gone, and Billy's been gone for about a month and a half now. The offseason, it hasn't stopped. It continues to move, and other teams are making decisions. Every day that passes without a hire feels like another day where Bulls fans just start wondering, hey, what exactly is going on? You scroll through social media, you listen to sports radio, you listen to favorite Bulls podcasts, and you can feel the anxiety building. Who is the coach going to be? Why is it taking so long? And what are the Bulls waiting for? And there's one name that keeps coming up over and over again, and that's Miami Heat assistant coach Chris Quinn. Now, Chris Quinn seems to be one of the more serious candidates connected to the job. He's been in Miami for years. He's worked under Eric Spoelstra. He's been part of one of the most respected organizations in all of the NBA. Players seem to love him. Coaches around the league respect him. But there seems to be one growing concern I've seen amongst Bulls fans every time his name comes up. It's not about his basketball IQ. It's not about his experience. It's not even about whether he's qualified or not. The concern seems to be this. If Chris Quinn is so good, why hasn't somebody hired him already? People point out that he's interviewed for multiple jobs already over the years, and he's never landed one. And I guess I can understand why that might raise an eyebrow, but personally, that's not something that worries me at all. In fact, when I hear the criticism, it kind of reminds me of arguably one of the greatest coaches of Chicago Bulls history. And that, of course, my old heads know, is Tom Thibodeau. He won Coach of the Year. He coached Derrick Rose's MVP season. He helped lead the Bulls back into national relevance. He gave the franchise an identity. They built around defense, toughness, effort, and grit. For many younger Bulls fans, he's probably the best Bulls coach that they had ever watched. But before the Chicago Bulls hired him, he was Chris Quinn. He wasn't viewed as some proven superstar head coach. He was viewed as a brilliant assistant coach. And that was it. He spent years building a reputation as one of the smartest defensive minds in basketball. He coached under Jeff Van Gundy, Doc Rivers. Players respected him, executives respected him, coaches respected him. And year after year, he interviewed for head coaching jobs, but didn't quite land them. And just take a moment and think about that for a second. The same thing that people are saying about Chris Quinn today was being said about Tom Thibodeau about 15 years ago. If he's so great, why hasn't anybody hired him yet? If he's interviewed this many times, maybe there's something that teams see that we don't, that they don't like. Or maybe he's just one of those guys who's going to be a career assistant coach. Does that sound familiar? Because it should. The reality is, getting an NBA head coaching job is incredibly difficult. There's only 30 of them. Sometimes a coach can be fully qualified and simply lose out because another candidate maybe has more experience or connected with the GM a little bit better. Sometimes ownerships prefer a bigger name. Sometimes a front office wants a former player. And sometimes simply timing just doesn't work. Not getting hired doesn't automatically mean you're not qualified. Sometimes it just means the right opportunity has not come along yet. And that is exactly what happened with Tom Thibodeau. But the Bulls eventually decided to take that chance. And then what happened? In his very first season, the Chicago Bulls won 62 games. Derrick Rose became the youngest MVP in NBA history. Chicago reached the Eastern Conference Finals, and Thibodeau won NBA Coach of the Year. Not bad for a guy who supposedly could not get a head coaching job. And that's why I think we need to be careful about using interview history against Chris Quinn. In some ways, I actually view it as a positive. If teams keep interviewing you year after year, that means people around the league see something. Nobody keeps getting brought into coaching searches for a decade if the league doesn't respect them. The fact that Quinn continues to be connected to openings tells me that the NBA decision makers clearly think he has head coaching potential. Now, does that mean he's guaranteed to be successful? Well, of course not. Nothing guarantees success. There are plenty of highly respected assistants who become average head coaches. There are plenty of former players who fail. There are plenty of veteran coaches who fail. Nobody knows for sure. But if your biggest concern is that Chris Quinn has interviewed for jobs before and didn't get them, I don't think that's enough for me to cross him off the list. Because if the Bulls had used the same logic in, 2010, they never would have hired Tom. And Bulls history would have looked oh so different. Now, am I saying Chris Quinn is going to become the next Tibbs? No. That's a huge standard to live up to. Tibbs helped define the more modern era of Chicago Bulls basketball. But what I am saying is that the path looks familiar. A highly respected assistant coach, years of experience, strong endorsements from throughout the league, multiple interviews, and yet people still wondering why they hadn't gotten a chance yet. We've seen this movie before. And quite honestly, it worked out pretty well for Chicago. Ultimately, I think Bulls fans should focus less on how many jobs Chris Quinn didn't get and more on why so many teams want to continue to talk to him in the first place. Because sometimes the next great head coach isn't the biggest name available. Sometimes he's the guy who's been waiting patiently for his opportunity while learning from some of the best organizations in all of basketball. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what Chris Quinn has been doing all these years. So if the Bulls do end up hiring him, the fact that he's interviewed elsewhere before doesn't scare me. If anything, it would remind me of the last time Chicago took a chance on a highly respected assistant coach who had spent years waiting for somebody to finally believe in it. And quite honestly, that worked out pretty well. I hope you enjoyed the debut episode of Believe, a Chicago Bulls podcast. Please, on your way out, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and share this with all the Chicago Bulls fans in your life. Until next time.